From the onset, I want to support this motion and I think there is nothing much that can be said about Senator Johnston Muthama. He was our immediate former chairperson of UDA, which he has ceded that chairpersons to Governor Cecily Mbarire. I think talking about his CV, I've gone to the report. Mr. Speaker, we have an advantage as a Senate because he served with us. He understands the constraints that we go through, Mr. Speaker, in terms of discharging our mandate as per Article 96, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a man during the campaign, he led us single-handedly, along all other leaders, including yourself, to ensure that Kenya Kwanza won the election and subsequently formed the government. Mr. Speaker, is a national leader. I would be cautious to say he's a Kamba leader, as my sister had said. This is a national leader that we respect so much, his age, the track record that he has performed, Mr. Speaker, and despite from wherever he comes from, Mr. Speaker, we believe in the words of Martin Luther Jr. King, where all of us will be judged by the content of our character as opposed to who we are or we come from, Mr. Speaker. And I would have expected Senator Mahanzo, we had discussed with him to be very happy about this because he knows why, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Mr. Speaker, on Article 127, I think, Mr. Speaker, the issue of PSC is that Senate is unfairly represented, and I don't fear to contradict myself on that aspect. We remember in the last session, and there have been even, Mr. Speaker, the chairperson of PSC is the National Assembly Speaker, your counterpart, Senator Moses Masika Wetangula. One of our representatives is also the clerk of the Senate, Mr. Speaker, who is the secretary to the commission, and that is Mr. Jeremiah Nyegenya, Mr. Speaker. And we are aware by imaginations by individuals within National Assembly who wanted to water down of the powers of the clerk of the Senate, who is a member of who is a secretary to the PSC, Mr. Speaker. And we are aware of those imaginations because their intention is to make PSC one-man show in favor of the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. But the Constitution is very clear. Whether you want to legislate the PSC Act the way you want, but the Constitution remains that the secretary of the PSC is the clerk of the Senate. And I want to advise my brothers and sisters in the National Assembly, they will gain nothing by ensuring that they try and water down and create other offices that try to water down the secretary to the PSC, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I think other members like 7, we have elected, and I don't know why it is good minority side are back in the House, and I can see my lawyer, Commissioner Okongo Mugeni. I have never understood, and this is my plea to the minority leadership, led by Minority Leader, Mr. Speaker, my brother, Senator Stewart Manzayo, that in future, as the way majority side we do, Mr. Speaker, can you also kindly send 2 representatives? In this side of the majority, we send 2 representatives. The next time is to ensure from the minority side, probably Senator Okongo Mugeni, Mr. Speaker, and another, even a lady. I can see there are many ladies from minority side, so that we achieve balance of power, Mr. Speaker, when we are in the PSC, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the role of PSC, and that is why I want to emphasize Article 127. Mr. Speaker, can you believe there are members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, who are squatting? They don't have offices. But Article 127...
Madam Speaker.
Oh, sorry, Madam Speaker. And congratulations, you used to be our SG, and we wish you well in your future endeavors, Madam Speaker. Section Article 127, subsection 6, gives the power Parliamentary Service Commission to provide facilities to members, Madam Speaker. Up to now, there are members of National Assembly and the Senate who are still squatting, Madam Speaker, on corridors or protection house, on KICC, and many others, Mr. Speaker, even in corridors of Parliament that do not have the offices, Mr. Speaker. These facilities must be provided for by the PSC. Our members must be ensured, Madam Speaker. Another point I want to make, and you know even KICC, Madam Speaker, where some of us have offices for some time, we are living with cockroaches. Sometimes you are in the office, and a number of cockroaches, and millions of them show up, Madam Speaker. There are no lights on corridors. The toilets are in pathetic state. In fact, somebody who lives in Korogosho or other places are having better toilets than what we're having in KICC. There is no water. There is no well lit, Madam Speaker. It impairs the discharge of our services, Madam Speaker. And therefore, the PSC, and I want to, it is good that we have members here and Senator Muthama, Madam Speaker, that we must be treated, even the safety, Madam Speaker. There are strangers that are roaming around our offices without a proper accreditation, that the facility should be put in place, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, finally on the issue of SRC, why is it that PSC is behaving as it is under the SRC? And Senator Okongo Mugeni, before we elected him as the commissioner, had even challenged the Gazette notice at that point before this floor of the House. Why is it that the PSC is behaving as if it is under SRC? And yet SRC and PSC are creation of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. I know the change of the seat, Mr. Speaker, sir. Why is it that, and that is why many problems that members of parliament are facing is because it is creation of SRC. So we want to encourage, we want to challenge, we want to besiege, we want to give them ile mate ya baraka to PSC, Mr. Speaker, so that they go and don't allow SRC to blackmail and intimidate you. Why do you fear SRC? SRC are issuing left, right, and center. You saw the SRC chair, Mr. Speaker, that she was giving herself 10 million car grant, and members of parliament were given 6 million, Mr. Speaker, sir. In fact, the SRC should be made a part-time commission, because they don't have any business, because the review of salaries is provided under the law, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I challenge the PSC, don't be intimidated, don't behave as if SRC are up, you are down. You should work from up and down, Mr. Speaker. And that is why we need to, and finally, on the parliamentary democracy, I think they are doing very well. We, as per Article 118, we want to encourage the PSC to promote this parliamentary democracy. We have seen they are building CPS team, current Mr. Speaker, sir, and therefore we are very proud of what you are doing in terms of promoting parliamentary democracy, bill tracking that we are seeing online, the facilities that members are enjoying, even the water that we are seeing. We note even, we want to challenge the Secretariat biannually, Mr. Speaker, sir, to be providing us with the Constitution, the documentation, and update of this iPad, Mr. Speaker, sir, so that it becomes easy. Even I can see there is a lot of catalog of laws. We should find a way, Mr. Speaker, sir, to provide in our offices the catalog of these laws, so that it is tedious. With the COVID, after COVID, Mr. Speaker, sir, why would we be seeing this big catalog of laws? And Mr. Speaker, I'm sure where you are seated, you have been well resourced online so that it becomes easy and ensure. And even, Mr. Speaker, on that point is that the also provision of internet, especially to our offices. Mr. Speaker, the internet that we have in our offices is behaving like Kenya Power. They disappear and come back at the will. So who is the provider of Wi-Fi, Mr. Speaker? And we are not using Wi-Fi to watch TikTok. We are using Wi-Fi to do research and enrich the issues that we present before the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker, sir. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, alongside Senator Johnstone Muthama, yourself, Senator Wetangula, Moses Musalia Mudavadi, the President himself, William Ruto, Rigiji, and others, we as members of majority side, we have to support Senator Muthama. And he must go to be a PSC commissioner, but when we want him to go there to serve everybody, regardless of what they believe in, where they come from, Mr. Speaker. Other issues I don't want to say on the floor of the House, we can reserve to the Speaker's Kamukunji, but to support this motion and wish the PSC Parliamentary Service Commission all the best as they serve us and ensure that our welfare is a top priority so that we discharge for the benefit of many Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, with those very, very remarks, and of course with the staff, Mr. Speaker, we note, I almost forgot that, allow me just a second, is that we also, PSC, Mr. Speaker, to ensure also our staff are well catered for, so that they are able to assist us because they are our own, Mr. Speaker. Even yourself, these staff are doing a good job. They are ensuring that we are well resourced in terms of research, in terms of provision of services. So even PSC also, we are not saying they should only push for the agenda of members of parliament. They must include the staff so that the staff are well resourced and be able to support us to discharge the mandate that our people gave us before the House. With those very, very remarks, Mr. Speaker, to congratulate and wish Senator Sifuna all the best. I can see today sitting on the Deputy Minority Whip seat. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator